Hi everyone. Okay. Strange times. Um, I'm going to keep making videos as best I can over the next month. New Zealand just went into lockdown, so I think I am still allowed to travel the 10 minutes from my house to my workshop so far. So hopefully I can do that and still do something. At the moment I have this job on making these chairs. This is the finished mock-up of that. So I'm planning to do a series on making these chairs. There are chair parts strewn throughout the workshop. By the end of this 4 weeks of quarantine, hopefully people can go about their daily life to a certain amount of normality. I doubt very much whether I'll have a business at the end of those 4 weeks. So I'm not sure how that goes. But at least in the time being, I can try and get these couple of projects finished. Like I say, I've got 12 chairs to make, and for the same client, a large, medium-sized sideboard, which should all be very nice. It's actually all furniture is meant to be being shipped off to Sydney in Australia. So when that can actually happen, I don't know. Whether or not I get paid for it at this stage, I don't know. But I have the materials and I'm already halfway through the job, so I might as well do something. So here we go. Okay, so this is a basic model of the chairs I need to make. It's very difficult to draw this kind of thing on SketchUp, or I imagine on anything. If you spend enough hours at it, you could probably get it better, but at some point you've got to say that's enough and I'm going to actually start making something out of timber. So where do I start with this? I'm not entirely sure. I think what I'm going to do, my main concern at this point is getting this connection here between the back leg and this hoop sorted out, and also actually making this curved piece here, which would actually be a very big piece of solid timber. There's a lot of wastage. So what I think I've decided to do is make this whole hoop here out of a bent lamination. And seeing as I've got 12 chairs to do, if I make up a mold, and then I can just keep gluing up these hoops, and I can get 12 exactly the same. And after that, I'll work out how to try and join it. My plan, I think, is just going to be to cut that hoop and then form a tenon on each end of it and form mortises into the leg. I think that's going to work. There should just be enough material for that. So that's where I'm going to start. So there's only really a couple of parts that I can use the CNC for this job. And the main one is making the mold for the seat hoop. So I use my little X-carve to do that. In the meantime, I could cut a whole lot of strips of pine and sand them down. This is to make the bent lamination. The whole mock-up of the chair will be out of pine or anything I have on hand, really. So to glue up, I'm practicing with this glue. It's a urea resin glue. It's the first time I've used it, and I must say it is really damn awesome for laminating and things like that. It's a very nice glue indeed, dries rock hard, so it's perfect for this kind of thing. This kind of glue up is much easier with 2 people, but it can be done with 1. It's just a bit of a pain in the butt. The other part we can use the CNC heavily for is making the jigs for the back legs, and you'll see a bit more about that later. In the meantime, I just made this one kind of two-dimensional version of the leg to help me with this kind of thing. I can just screw the mock-up template right to the leg and use a flush router bit to sort that out. So I made a template up and it was just shaping that on the drum sander. This is for the front cabriole legs. So this was a particularly challenging area where I had to try and figure out which angle the back legs were going to sit at relative to something that was curved. So a lot of it was just eyeballing what looked right and then trying to measure that point. And it just took a lot of kind of fluffing around. Eventually I got to somewhere where I thought it looked like it should. So this is cutting the front rail, and originally it was going to be straight, and then I thought it's going to be much nicer if it has a curve in it. I was a bit worried about having to waste a lot of stock, but in the end I thought it would just look better with a curve, and I also decided to add the little bead to the bottom edge of this, and it will also go onto the curved rail all the way around the seat as well, which I think just helps to create the look that the client's after. After I stuffed that up, I had to put some new pieces in the mold to glue up so I could get on with working out how I was going to make the top kind of backrest. So after a lot of trial and error, finding out what the compound angle was, I could cut that. In the meantime, my lower backrest was ready, so I could cut that out on the bandsaw. With the compound angles cut on each end of the stock, I could then cut the curve out of the backrest. Okay, with this kind of mocked up, there's a few things I don't like. I don't like this double curved kind of mid-rail. That's just going to be a straight piece now. So my original plan was to cut this glue lam hoop and add some tenons and mortise into the back leg on from each side. Pretty complicated thing to do, even with the Panto router that is meant to be delivered today. So we spent quite a bit of time just before discussing all the various options of how to join this up. And so what we're going to do now is actually try running the hoop continuously, which is by far my preference and way stronger. And we'll just put a notch in the back leg and epoxy the hoop into it. So it makes the whole chair making, in theory, a lot easier, where we would make the back legs and the back splats up and the hoop and the front legs up, and then kind of marry them together at this point. So I've got a bunch more stuff in the molds. I've made an extra mold of this, and we're gluing up some more things, some more hoops, and we're going to see if we can put the mock-up together in that form. I know this is only screwed together, but already I can tell that this is going to be a weak point if someone's rocking on this. And if this is continuous through here, it's going to be a lot less stress on the leg. So I think it's going to be much stronger to do it in this fashion we're thinking about. So in the meantime, I'm going to start pulling out the giant pieces of kauri that I've got and start breaking it down a little bit. I've mentioned it before on videos how rare kauri is, and this is really an exception. I've never really seen pieces of clean kauri this size ever. This is 300 by 60 by kind of 3.64 meters long. I've actually got some even larger 600 wide planks from the client, and they have been hoarding it away from their family's farm for about 50 years, and it is just beautiful timber to work with. So it's a bit daunting because you only really have one chance. There's a limited supply of it, and I am trying my best not to screw up too much. So my Panto router showed up, and so we very quickly put that together and learned how to use it. And here we're making the mortises for the front cabriole legs. So there's 24 of them to do, so Nick is working away. And actually only took about 40 minutes, if that, to do all the mortises. So it's an awesome machine. With the back leg stock roughed out, we could joint both sides, and then I actually split on the bandsaw, and we could get two legs out of each of one of these blanks. So I got the Panto router set up to cut the notch in the back legs that will accept the hooped seat rail, and it took a bit of kind of sorting out to make it work, but I tell you what, I don't know any other way I could have done that, and so easy to do that on the pieces. So now with the back, well actually what is the front of the leg, all cut to shape, I made a second jig, which is the opposite side. This one's a little bit easier, a bit safer in that it fully encapsulates the leg on each end, so it can't slide backwards and forwards. It's a bit of a tight fit, which is good. So now that the leg's in a jig, it can't move, so all I want to do is hold it down. So this side's a lot safer than the other side. There's a lot more on this particular piece. I might end up tracing this and just taking off what I need to on the bandsaw. So some of you might have noticed that with the way I'm doing this, at some point I'm going to be cutting against the grain, and generally up one half. On that first cut, certainly one half was against the grain, and the second half on most of the boards was with the grain. It's a bit hard depending on how the boards are orientated. I'm happy to take that risk for a few reasons. I mean, obviously everything could go terrible and it could blow out. One, this is particularly soft timber, so I know what it can do. It does machine very nicely. Secondly, I'm trying to cut the smallest amount at a time that I can. And thirdly, I've got very sharp new knives on the cutter. So with those things in mind, plus a slower feed rate, with those things in mind, I'm kind of happy to take the risk of going against the grain rather than making another jig which would allow me to go from both directions. And yeah, at this point I want to just try it with the two jigs and let's see how it goes from there. So far so good though. So with the 24 legs cut, I could then notch them all, 6 on one side and, 12 on one side, 12 on the opposite side, which meant changing my jig, but anyway, that was fine. So ultimately I didn't like the design of the armrests in that last shot. I've simplified the design, so I'm more happy with how that's going to work. I'm really happy with how the connection between the glue lam and the back leg is working. I think epoxy and a single screw into there is going to be perfect. We've got really nice fitting mortise and tenons between the front legs and the front rail. These uprights will be epoxied or just glued and screwed from the inside. And so the seat, I don't think I've actually talked about the seat and this back panel are going to be upholstered in leather. I'm having somebody else do that. Well, I do have the leather here, but I'm not going to start touching that. So one of the complex things down the track in another video is that we have to make a bent form in here for the upholstery to sit on. So that's going to be a bit of fun as well. The other change I've made from that last shot is that I sourced some larger cowrie from my client, and we were able to get a better curve in the backrest, which feels way more comfortable. So I'm really happy with that. So hopefully in the near future I'll be able to bring you some updates on how we're going with this project. There's, just like I said earlier, a whole lot of parts strewn about the workshop in varying degrees of being finished. And now that I'm by myself in the workshop, things are going to slow down a little bit on the project, but I'll do my best to keep up with it. All the very best of luck with everybody, and I hope to see you soon.